Taban, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Really excited.
Absolute pleasure. And I am very interested in what you have to say today because obviously this is the startup show. We talk about business, we talk about how to make ideas viable, but you don't have a typical business per se, do you?
I don't. I have a charity, or some people call that a non-profit or non-governmental organization. But for me, I believe in human investment. So I don't see why charities or NGOs or any civil society organization should be seen any different to businesses. The only difference we have is that we're investing in human capital, human investment. So for me, I'm a massive believer in actually for the sustainability of charities. How do you think like a business to ensure that it runs and lasts beyond the founder? I'm building an organization that I can step away from. And I think that comes from a business mentality.
Definitely. I think for me, I know very little about the charity space. Most of my life I spent around corporates, either working for them or building my own. And I am interested to understand the inner workings of how a charity or an NGO or a non-profit works. I know they're all kind of different structures, but non-profit, you need money to keep the lights on, to keep things going, to pay staff. So obviously I want us to go into that level of detail, but firstly, what is it called and when did you start it?
So it's called the Lotus Flower, and we were founded in 2016. So I came here to Kurdistan between 2014 and 2015. And this is when ISIS was in the region causing havoc. And when I went back to the UK at the end of 2015, I realised that there was a gap still to support women and girls. And other organisations were starting to kind of leave and plan their exit strategies, especially international ones, when there were still 2.6 million people displaced. And my background is I'm a genocide survivor. I don't think that's very unique in Kurdistan. Every single person has a story of genocide or has been impacted in some way. For me, arriving in the UK as a refugee, I feel like I had that background and knowledge and experience of, I've kind of got that lived experience. What can I do with it? How can I transmute that into something positive that impacts society and actually helps my motherland? And that's when I decided to start the Lotus Flower, and I registered it. I actually registered it in the UK as a limited company by guarantee, and you'd know this structure in the UK, and it's, you know, any profits that happen go back into the business. But the only reason I did that at that time is because it was the easiest way to set up the structure for me to start implementing projects instantly. And there was already a charity arm that I could go under for donations in the region. So the structure was set up in that way. And then over time, we registered as a charity. And here we registered fully as an NGO in Kurdistan, but also in central Baghdad, Iraq. So we've got all the local registrations needed. But I think the difference in terms of the mechanics, I really don't believe it's any different. Like, with a business, you need to raise funds to do anything that you need. With a charity, you need to do exactly the same. You need to raise funds to do the projects that you need.
Yeah, in business, there's a lot of sales and marketing, and obviously when you sell something, you get revenue coming in. That revenue, you could then split it down in terms of your expenses, your overheads, staffing, electricity, if you've got, you know, a building that you're paying utilities for, blah, 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 until the bottom line, gross profit, net profit. In a charity setup, obviously you need money coming in, but instead of it being in terms of direct sales, i.e. selling a product or service, you perhaps maybe sell an idea to people that are looking to donate money to support ideas like that. And then through the services you provide with that investment, that is in alignment with what they wanted to invest in. Is that how it works typically?
So I guess the difference with a non-profit and a charity is that any money that comes into the organisation cannot be used for profit at all. In terms of sales, the equivalent to sales would be fundraising.
Okay.
So you do fundraising, and we've kind of from day one focused on fundraising from a diversified portfolio. So some organizations, for example, were completely dependent on USAID funding.
Okay.
They will now not be around because USAID funding pulled out.
So they had all of their eggs in one funding basket.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they didn't diversify, and now they're probably trying their very best to diversify, but that's it takes time, and people are in that boat. Having only their eggs in that basket means that everyone's trying to vie for all these different pies at the same time. It takes time. You can't keep the lights on, the staff salaries paid. Maybe a few will be shutting down as a result of that.
I know a few have already. Like, we've been impacted from the USAID cuts through our one of our partner projects for child protection, but it's just one project.
Okay.
And because we've diversified our donors, we've gone for different projects with different donors. It can be international organizations, it can be trusts and foundations, it can be high net worths, it can be corporate partnerships. So we're very focused on making sure that we are diversified, and we never commit beyond our limit. So we're very careful on how we kind of manage our risk and how much we commit to. And I think it's interesting that I see the difference between fundraising abroad and fundraising in KRI. There is a difference. There's definitely a difference. And I think that's because of cultural reasons, religious reasons, the different ways of fundraising. Even abroad, like, for example, zakat during Ramadan is the most time Muslims give. So here, zakat is prevalent. Charity is mainly one-to-one. So you'll find a poor family that you kind of help yourself.
Okay.
So you find that actually here, fundraising is very different to what it looks like outside. I often get asked, so do you have any, philanthropists and donors that support you in region? And I kind of explain it's a bit harder. It doesn't really work like that because most philanthropists and business people will most probably, donate to a mosque or fund a particular big project themselves. So the mindset and mentality of fundraising is so different here. But then there's also that mistrust of charities, which I'm fully aware of, because there have been charities and non-profits and NGOs that have misused money.
Like corruption?
Corruption, yeah. I mean, this happens all around the world.
Yeah.
It's not something we've got to pretend doesn't happen. It happens all around the world. And I'm pretty sure this part of the world is no different. It happens everywhere. And I think it's really important to make sure that your due diligence and things like that are very strong. I guess for us, because we've got a lot of international donors, in the UK, the Charity Commission is very strict. So you have to have all those checks and balances in place. That's really important. But that would be the same in any business. Compliance is the same in any business, right? You have compliance departments. It's the same thing with due diligence and governance in charities. Making sure those systems are set up properly for you to be able to absorb funding.
So would funders then outright reject any concept of giving money to an organisation that doesn't conform to certain tick box regulations that they would, insist on? That would be something that an organisation or a charity would need to take care of before they'd even consider appealing to, let's say, UK donors or things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're really, obviously, because charities and businesses, difference in terms of compliance and rules. It's a lot harder on charities. We are getting money, right? So we're being given money as a donation. Therefore, you have to, and I believe there should be checks and balances in place. If I'm someone that's giving money, I'd like to know where the money's going, and it's going to be spent charitably. So I think that's 100% correct. And there are donors, it depends on what kind. So if it's public funding, for example, governments abroad have public funding, which is channeled through, for example, GIZ or FCDCO. These are all public funding. It's taxes from abroad that they've given, and it goes into development funding. It's very strict.
Okay.
It has extremely strict rules. Like, you've got to provide a receipt for we get audited a lot. So it's really, really, really strict when it comes to public funding. And then trusts and foundations will have their own rules. So you have to kind of provide reporting and proof in different ways. High net worths will be completely different. So each donor is actually different in their
requirements. That makes sense. That makes
Sorry.
sense. No. I think it's interesting just drawing parallels between business and charity raising money. Obviously, in a business, from my experience, let's say we provide educational programs to schools in England. We do that in a few different ways. We tap into schools funding, we tap into parents funding, and there's also some private funding pots that we can target from corporates. Let's say school funding dries up for something. That means those activities that we were doing at schools, we need to make up that money and more from the other channels that we have.
Yep.
So all our eggs are not in that one basket.
Yep.
A similar thing from what you're saying, if a funding pot dries up suddenly, say USAID, you need to diversify.
Yep.
How important have you found diversifying to be to maintain the Lotus Flower?
I think it's been really, really important. Before the Lotus Flower, before I came to the region, I used to work as a project manager at an asset management firm.
Oh, there's a lot of insights you could probably get from that experience.
Definitely. So I got to learn a lot from the corporate world, but I also learned one thing from fund managers, which is diversifying your funding. And even though I'm not a fund manager, I've kind of applied that rule of just making sure you don't put all your eggs in one basket, because that's dangerous. And we've done that from day one. So I'm really glad that I did that. I didn't really plan ahead for it. It was more a case of, I've seen other organizations or different sectors do this, then why wouldn't it be applied to a charity?
Let's talk about day one. So you said you set up shop in England, in the United Kingdom. When you set it up, did you have an idea as to what you would be doing? Or did you go in with a vision, and then from there you appealed to or saw what funding opportunities there were, you secured one or two, and then you were like, okay, yeah, we can do that. Let's create an offering or something that's going to help cater for that funding pot to support. Did you have a clear vision, or did you sort of adapt it based on what they want as well? Because they're giving money for a reason. You might have come in for one reason.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't align exactly. So did you have to kind of pivot a little bit just to make sure that you ticked their boxes, even though they didn't all take yours?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting you ask that, because even though I registered in the UK, I didn't do anything in the UK. Like, for me, and this is where the parallels of maybe to the business world might be quite interesting, I had returned from Kurdistan in 2015 and just could not go back to a normal job in the UK after experiencing what we'd experienced, and it was an extreme 2 years.
When was that? What
this
years?
was 2015.
Okay.
So I'd gone back and went, there's no way that I can go back to a normal job. What do I do? And so I registered it. I think I registered it more to make sure that I moved.
Take action.
To take action. It wasn't that I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have a charity plan. I knew I wanted to help women and girls impacted by conflict and displacement. The hows I didn't really have. I knew exactly why. So my why was very strong. The hows, I just thought, I'd figure it out. And then in terms of the funding, this was even more funny. It's the first time that I realized rich people gave money, which sounds really strange to say now. But at that time, I had one donor that had donated £1,000 to a project just to renovate a school here when I was here. And so when I went back to him and said, I've set up the Lotus Flower, I need £25,000 for the first project. And that first project was an income generating project for a group of women. So we went and asked them, what would you like? what kind of projects you want to see. And they said, we want to learn a skill, we want the equipment, we want the training, and we want a small grant to be able to support our kids. So when I went to this donor, I showed them what I'd done with the renovation of the school. And I said, I need £20,000 because somebody has, a big law firm has promised me, corporate, has promised me £5,000 if I can find the 20. And he went, surely they could have given you the 20 if you found the 5. Like, why didn't I? Went, don't ask me, but that's the situation I'm in.
Why did it, like, is it they want someone else to have skin in the game with them? They're not just the only ones.
There's so much red tape. I mean, I'm sure you know from abroad, to get through CSR and stuff, you need to be registered, have impact. I mean, I've literally just registered. I didn't have anything. And then I went, well, it's a bit hard, but can you like donate £1,000 again and maybe get 19 of your friends to donate £1,000? And he laughed and went, or I could just give you 20. And I went, what? What do you mean?
That works.
Yeah. I went, yeah, that really does work. But basically, it's the first time I realised people who had good hearts and wanted to do good in the world would give money. And as long as you showed them where the money went and how it was spent, and you kept everything clean and you showed the impact.
That's key, isn't it?
It's key. Showing impact. Like a business in terms of impact is results on sales.
Yeah, it's also like, it depends. So obviously internal impacts like sales, cost to acquire a customer, how much revenue do you get per customer, the lifetime value, blah, 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 all these internal metrics. But front facing, we're in education. The impact that we would describe to schools, parents, head teachers is different. How many students we've impacted, attainment before versus after our programs. So you have to adapt the metrics to suit the audience. So in your case, they're donating money. They want to see where that money's gone, what's happened, where it's been invested, before, after photos. How does that work?
Yeah,
is that
completely? And I think that's fundraising is driven by impact. If you don't have the proof of impact, then it's very difficult to fundraise. And for the first 3 years, because we started from nothing, I knew it was going to be hard because I just put myself in a donor's shoes and I wanted to see impact myself. Like if I was a donor, what would I want to see? And so impact is really, really important. For the first 3 years while I set up the Lotus, I actually worked full time.
Okay.
So I had 2 full-time jobs, one that I wasn't being paid for and one that kept me and my son, kept us going. And the main important thing was that I'd hired a regional manager here to do the work on the ground and implement the projects, and project staff. They were paid to make sure the project staff were paid, but I knew that the return on investment for me was the impact. So I needed 3 years of impact to show that A, what we're doing is needed, and B, what we're doing is working.
It also shows a proven track record so that anyone else that you would appeal to for money can see, oh, this is doing really good things, and they've got evidence of doing it in location A, group community B.
Yeah.
And from there, they're able to be like, okay, that de-risks our, because they're looking at it from a perspective, we're going to give this money, we want to make sure it's in safe hands, it's actually going to work towards our goals. 3 years of track record, that would make life much easier than compared to day one when you were starting and just knocking on doors, being like, can we have £1,000 please? And did you invest anything else at the beginning? And obviously your time, you're working full time, and so that's time and energy. Did you have any savings or anything, or was it mostly donations?
I would always use a little bit of my own savings and money to kind of make sure things happened. I'd say time. When you're investing a full time, I was essentially working during the day full time, and then weekends and evenings I was working on this.
And you've got a son.
And I had a son, and I was ill, so there was a lot of pressure on me. But I knew where it was going. I've always known where it's going, and that kind of inner compass has just kept me going. And I've been really, really blessed with just having an amazing team. Even our team culture, I was looking at it because I have the UK to kind of compare it to, and I've worked in places here and I've heard stories about what it's like in working cultures here. I think our organisation has a very, very unique work team culture, and everyone describes it as a family, and I'm like, that's, you know, as a value for an organisation, it's the best thing that I can bring. So I've been very lucky with just a brilliant team.
But did you have this team from day one? It wasn't... Oh, okay. So
Built it.
So you built it over a period of time.
Yeah.
But initially it was all you. Did you have any support? Yeah. You're working 2 jobs, got a son, ill, trying to be a good mother, trying to put food on the table, trying to put the best into the charity. No one supporting you, or did you have any friends or family that were?
So in the UK, it was just me. And then it was me and my regional director, Vian, who, you know, I remember when we first started, we didn't have money to get a cabin. We had to buy cabins in camps. So Vian had found a burnt cabin that she renovated with a group of volunteers. And then once the cabin was ready, then we started our projects. So it was just me, and then me and Vian. And then it would have been hires from within the regions that we worked. So if it was a camp, it would have been within that camp. And that in 2016, let's just say it was me, Vian, and 1 or 2 more. To last year, I think last year was our highest group hire. We had about 200 staff last year. And I'd say we're just over 100 this year because of like funding increases and decreases. We never had an office.
Just managing it all remotely.
I managed it all remotely, but we had the cabin. And then I think that's when we learned, wait, we had one of the big donors in the region going, you can't apply to us unless you have an office.
Okay.
Where they're going, what do you mean? Why would you waste money on an office? Why do you need an office?
Is that when you discovered virtual offices, or?
No, it's when I discovered that you need a HR department and a logistics department and a procurement department and a finance department. And this and I went,
here we go.
You're making me put all these departments in place. I don't have any money. And they're like, well, if you want to get funding, all these departments need to be in place and you need to have an office. So that's when I learned, okay, the due diligence and the governance needs to be there on that level for us to be able to get higher amounts of funding and bigger donors. Or institutional donors and international organization donors. So it was going into a different league. So we kind of started as unstructured, registered, but more like a community organization. And then it kind of went to the next level when we realized, okay, we really need to kind of put these departments in place and make sure everything is running efficiently. We've got our due diligence. You know, some of our donors, it's really difficult to get on their system unless they've done their due diligence.
But once you're in,
you're in, and then they keep checking and auditing and doing their things, you're in. So I think I've seen that transition of really tiny struggling, and we're still struggling all the way for funding, but it's a different level. Like you've got your departments in place. I mean, when I'm in the UK, there's about 3 of us there, and we support the work here. But when I come here, I feel like I've just got a full team. I go to finance to do my finance things. I go to HR. Like you go to actual departments. So for me, I've seen it transition like a business. And now we're at that stage of thinking, okay, well, how do we really make it sustainable? Development funding isn't going to be here forever. So you're
thinking about like creating something that creates money itself, like in revenue streams.
Social enterprise element.
Okay.
Yeah, I think eventually everyone should have that kind of mindset in terms of how you
making it self-sustaining. You're not just always relying on donations. You're actually, from the donations, you're actually creating something that allows it to generate revenue so that it can sustain the activities. Yeah. So a little bit like, I think it was the first project you mentioned where you were empowering women to be able to get the resources they needed so that they could actually create. What was it they were doing? They were selling?
So at that time, it was called Sewing Sisters. So they wanted to create sustainable livelihoods through sewing, but there were so many organizations doing sewing, and I just thought, I don't want to be another sewing organization. What do I do that's different? So we started bringing contracts into the camps.
Contracts?
As in, like, they would make uniforms for traditional Yazidi Day or schools or, you know, just different things to get them going. And then as soon as they were going, then they would be well known enough within the community to sustain themselves from a self-employed basis. But now we've got a jam factory in one of the camps. So we run a women's business incubator program inside and outside of camps. And we have various projects in there. Last year we launched 40 businesses. We'll be launching another 40 this year.
You launched 40 businesses?
For women-led businesses. So we train them up, give them small grants, and then they start. From the day that we started, I can't tell you how many, but we've been running this program for a while.
Can you see the businesses that you've helped start since the beginning, where they're at now? Are they still in operation? Are they flourishing? Have some of them died out? Or like, do you track those ongoing?
We do. So the one thing that's quite unique about us is that we try and maintain our monitoring and mentoring. Only because I think this is the difference with, I really do believe that lived experience founders that have gone through something that they don't want other people to go through, they genuinely want to get to the root of the problem, right? Like, I'd like to be out of a job. I shouldn't really be in a job. And actually, most people in charities, leaders, should not be in a job because you'd want the problem to be resolved so it's no longer there, right? So for us, when we think of businesses, the research and ideation phase is really important to make sure that they've really thought about the product that they want in their communities. And these are small businesses, but they are successful because they're desperately needed in that community.
Yeah.
I can give you some examples of, so Baking Sisters, we set up a few bakeries in some of the camps. So popular. Like so unbelievably popular. Why? Because everyone needs a birthday cake. Everyone needs a graduation cake.
They need or they want?
Well, they want. They need and want. You know, we kind of forget that people in vulnerable situations also have
celebrations
wants and celebrations for joy and experiences. And they've been so successful that when they have an oversupply, they give it out for free. And that's like, that's how I've impacted the community. We've helped set up 8 greenhouses for families that run them now, and they're harvesting and selling to the market. We're starting a project called Solar Sisters, which is training women to become solar engineers. We do...
So this is actually very interesting because everything that you've mentioned so far is not only revenue generating, but actually feeds back to helping the community at the same time. It's not like just making money for money's sake. They are helping provide food. 8 greenhouses, that must cover quite a few of their fruit and vegetable needs.
Yeah.
So do you, when you direct them or support them in building these businesses, do you have specific focuses? You said you identify what the market needs. Do you choose them on basis of how they can actually impact and support the community at the same time, as opposed to perhaps doing something else like creating an app for something?
Yeah. We've done Coding Sisters. So there's so many things that we've done. I think the way it comes around is it depends on the selection criteria of the participants. They've got to be very committed. So we don't do training for the sake of training.
So you pre-vet them to make sure they have what it takes.
Yeah.
100%. How do you do that? How do you figure out before someone's taken the first step that they've got the grip?
Well, we do call for proposals for people to kind of apply. So there's different stages of the actual application process. But then you get to know who's really, really wanting to do it and who will be 100% committed. So they have to be really committed to want to do it. And then the research and ideation phase is really important because that's when you kind of figure out, okay, is this business or product going to work in this community? And then you help them, you do the training, provide the tools, and then give them a small grant to help start the project. I went to, and I only say this because I'm ill myself, and I thought this is phenomenal. So we went to visit one of the women in the camp, and her husband's celiac, and really difficult to get food that's gluten-free.
Yeah.
Set up a gluten-free business online. And she's one of the women that we supported. and I went to see the products, but it's so clever. So it's an online business, and she takes orders from everyone. But what she's done is not only does she create gluten-free products, but she's gathered all the gluten-free brands under one roof, and then people kind of order from her. And they're going, that's genius. We had a really... I'll never forget, we had a woman that we supported who was deaf and mute, and actually quite shunned by her family because they didn't really want to help her. So she went through different training programs with us, but she did the Women's Business Incubator, and she set up a shop selling mobile phone card shops. The most popular person in the camp. So it's really, really looking
it's like it's almost in the camp, it's its own ecosystem.
Yeah.
And obviously we're in a big city here.
Yeah.
There's loads of mobile phone shops here. You're in a small camp. These shops are not readily available. Let's bring some of the in-demand things in these big cities. We know it works here. Let's adopt them here. And flourishing businesses
I think
a result.
that's it. I think that's it. It's really looking in detail. And we do out of camps as well. So I think out of camps, say for example, instead of focusing on a city, we'll focus on a village or a town.
Okay.
So I think there's sometimes we tend to forget to support people on the outskirts of cities. And for us, it's really important to support those communities. So we'll have, I don't know, projects in smaller towns and villages closer to cities to make sure that they're not left behind. And, you know, we do projects according to where would problems be for women and girls, and you find that rural areas.
So you choose them specifically for that, or a donor has specifically mentioned we want this in X, Y, and Z area, or you do they say this region or this country, you do the research for where it's going to be most impactful?
Yeah, we do both.
Okay.
So we do a mixture of both. We'll do our own research and analysis and assessments to figure out where the need is. Some donors are flexible and they allow us to kind of move around and figure out where the need is. Some donors, for example, will say, we're not donating in camps, it needs to be out of camp. And then we're not donating in this region, it needs to be in that region. And then you kind of select where, or do an assessment to figure out where is the most need. But I'd say it's a mixture of both.
Okay. It's very interesting because you have now, you're helping create business owners, keeping things self-sustaining there. They're feeding themselves, they're supporting the community. But you're also empowering them with skills that they can take with them in any walk of life, even after they've left the camp or because what happens is a lot of the time there is high unemployment, and finding employed work is difficult unless you have skills and experiences. Yeah. Another way to solve for that is to give people the skills to create their own work, i.e. become entrepreneurs, mini entrepreneurs in the camps, or bigger if they are in smaller towns or even cities. And so that skill is transferable. You understand about stock management, about needs in terms of what the customer wants, how to manage customer expectations, how to sell, how to manage a team even if it gets that big. And so these skills are all transferable. So you're not just giving them, you're not feeding them for a day, you're feeding them for life almost in a way. So very interesting. Do you really focus on the business side of things to empower them with business skills and ideas there, or do you do other things as well? Do you feel the business is the one with the most impact?
I think we approach it in a very holistic way. We kind of look at it and go, how can we approach this holistically? For example, you might have a woman that has a brilliant business idea and is ready to go, but her mental health isn't in the right place to start something. So we provide her with psychotherapy support.
Is that part of the mentoring side of things, or that's completely separate?
No, so our pillars are education and livelihoods, peace building and human rights, health and safety, and climate change. And actually, when reviewing our projects the other day, I just went, we're completely underselling ourselves because our projects align to 15 SDGs. But we make sure that everything is looked at through a lens of what's the best possible scenario for that person. So if they need psychosocial support, then they get psychosocial support as part of the business enhancement. So it's there and available. I think it's really important, but also how do we how do we instill that entrepreneurial, critical mindset, but to do good in the community in different projects? For example, we have a project called Peace Sisters and Peace Brothers, and we train mediators in the community, but they're mainly youth, and they get training in all sorts of things, from confidence building to critical skills to managing projects, whatever it is. They get training in those different areas, communication, and then they're kind of tasked to deliver a peace project in the community. So they get a small budget and they have to project manage creating that that event or whatever it is in terms of the initiative. So I think things like that encourage an entrepreneurial mindset. We're very much for innovation, creativity, thinking outside the box. How can you give back to your community? What can you do that can help someone else beyond yourself? All those different messages are really important, and it can be in the businesses or outside.
Why do you focus on women?
We do work with men and boys. We work with men, boys, religious leaders, and actually, you know, for example, I can give you an example of a project which was around gender-based violence, and the women said, well, you need to kind of speak to our men, so the sons, the boys, or whatever. And when we went to speak to them, they were like, well, actually, we need mental health support. So we went, well, we can give you that. So we started a men and boys trauma project, and we did a positive masculinity program. And we realized, actually, sometimes the men and boys are left behind in those programs. That's why we have an onset of other issues that can arise. Not all the time, just sometimes. And in that particular group and scenario, it did reduce gender-based violence for those groups of women, because we supported the men and boys. I believe in allyship, and I believe that you need men and boys and religious leaders and everyone else and a whole community to support women and girls. The reason I've chosen women and girls is, I guess, very much from my own experience. I was very young when I went to prison here.
You went to prison?
I was a child political prisoner, yeah.
How old were you?
4.
A 4-year-old in prison?
Yeah, this is during Saddam's time. It might have been way before your time, but yeah. So
Do you remember what that was like, or is it too young to remember?
Yeah, no, I do remember bits of it. I remember bits of it. I was with my family, so my mother and my paternal grandparents, so my dad's parents. I have this is the strange bit, is I have very clear, vivid images of the prison, but I can't seem to find it. I mean, my mum tells me we were here.
I was in the physical location where it exists now.
Yeah, my mum will say, this is where the location is. We were here. And my memory with that just doesn't so I don't know. I know it's somewhere around KRI. I just don't know where. But yeah, we were in prison because of my dad's politics and, you know, poetry. So I kind of have a lived experience understanding of what it's like to be impacted by conflict and displacement. So that's why I picked it. And I think women and girls bear the brunt of many of the world's problems. We need more support. And how do we do that? And for me, I believe in providing tangible projects and access to tools to allow them to be strengthened to get themselves out of any situation. So all I'm doing is, I feel like we're just a conduit, providing tools and training to allow them to feel stronger in themselves. I think in terms of women and girls, you know, every single person in this world has a mother. And, you know, you might have sisters, aunties. Why wouldn't you want them helped? Like, why wouldn't you want your daughter to be the best version of herself? Why wouldn't you want your mum to have the best version or opportunities? I don't think I don't see a reason why we would not help women and girls. So for me, it's my lived experience, but also I believe right now women and girls need a lot of support and allyship and just access to opportunities.
Do you think that's more specific to this region? Because you've got a UK arm, obviously operations-wise you're not doing much in the UK apart from, you said you had 3 team members there that manage the projects here. The landscape's quite different, isn't it? In the UK, in the West, there's been more initiatives to empower women in the workplace and life in general.
Yeah.
Here, would you say it's a little bit behind in terms of that progress?
You know what? I think every region is very, very different, but also has many similarities. You know, here I think there's not as many opportunities for women and girls. Like, let's just take the business example, right?
I think that's brilliant, by the way.
Yeah.
Just a business on its own is difficult to navigate.
Yeah.
But if you have the support structure, you're giving them grants to get started, as well as the information, the support, the ongoing mentoring, and you're helping them find a niche that is needed.
Yeah.
That's a lot of the heavy lifting already, and they're accountable because they don't want to let you guys down, even if they don't want to do it one day. You guys are supporting them. I think it's great, by the way.
Yeah,
but yeah,
thank you. And the basic things that are really showstoppers, like people don't think about it, but say, for example, registering a business, right? That whole process of registering can put anyone off.
Yeah, just let's not bother. It's too much of a headache, or maybe there's like lawyer fees and I can't afford food, let alone why would I do that? So
yeah.
But do you support them with that as well? So like every step from A to Z.
From A to Z. I mean, that's exactly what we want to do, is get to the root cause of problems. So if there's business people that want to support businesses of women, I would definitely say support us, not because I love my charity, but because we really do the A to B. And after B, we carry on mentoring them. We've still got relationships with all our businesses. We kind of, if they're in trouble, like for example during COVID, a lot of them were impacted. We made sure that we fundraised for bounce back grants to get them back on their feet. We mentored them still. We provide them with marketing advice. So it really is, how do we genuinely strengthen the opportunities? And these are really vulnerable women and girls. So we try and even go one step further and go, who would not have any opportunity to do something like this? So I think it's really, really important, and it allows us to approach it from a holistic way, and they end up giving back to their communities.
Well, how do you support them though with a business incubator? Like, what are the modules? So imagine now I have just joined the business incubator, assuming I was a woman.
Yeah.
So how would that work? How would you start with them? What's the process that you would go through from them from the beginning, and over what period of time?
It varies according to obviously what business, but there's a call for proposal to actually select.
They have to pitch themselves worthy of this opportunity. Yeah,
there's a selection criteria. There'll be a selection criteria first. The team go through that, and once they've selected the group of women, there's like a 3-month training program, and that training varies from starting to research and ideation, marketing, creating a business plan, consultations. They'll have one-to-one consultations with a business trainer. Like, they go through an extensive course.
Is it like a classroom setting, like 1 to 30? Okay.
Yeah, so they'll have that first. And then once they've got that, they are given any tools that they need for it. And then they're given a small grant. They're helped with the registration. So we have a team member that kind of helps them with the registration of businesses. Like, for example, if they're doing a food one, they'll need the Department of Hygiene. They need certificates. All the same checks and balances of any other business. We kind of just help them do that and make sure that there's nothing stopping them.
Like all bottlenecks, all areas where it could be like resistance to the point where they'd be like, you know what, I've had enough.
Yeah.
You remove that with your support.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes it really successful. Like, some donors are like, how do you have such a high success rate with the businesses? Well, it's because we've invested a lot into it. Not just with money, but with time and effort, and the team genuinely want the businesses to be successful. I think that's the thing for me, is the sustainability element is they're not just helping themselves. You're not just helping the woman become confident. You're helping the family. You're helping the community. You're helping the economy. So, you know, I've always dreamed about helping Kurdistan in some way, and this is my way of doing it. So indirectly, we are adding to the, actually directly, we are adding to the economy. We just focus on the areas that nobody else is looking at. And I think that's what makes us quite unique as well.
Yeah, I think I want to understand actually the perspective of the donors. So, like, walk us through a typical funding process, funding cycle. So, they've obviously, depending on who, everyone's got a different agenda, but why would they fund? Why would they allocate funds from taxpayers' money of their country, let's say the UK, to support initiatives like this? What's in it for them?
Well, that's a big question, and I would say the answer to that is very different depending on the donor. Every single donor will be completely different according to what their requirements would be. We can take some projects where it is funded by public funding, and they're called cash for work. Okay. So it's small sprints of work where they're given opportunities to do something, but they give back to the community somehow. So I can give you an example of that. Last year, we had a 40-day renovation of a castle. Like, it was a ruin. It was a castle ruin, but it had a beautiful, beautiful history. And we hired 40 people as part of that project to renovate for 40 days. I think it was 25 people maybe. But at the end of the project, you've got a fully restored castle that's now able to be visited by tourists or whoever goes to the region. So there are those kind of schemes as well. And that's to help from an economic empowerment perspective, and the donor would want it from that perspective. And other donors, like from the Women's Business Incubator, I know that their main focus and mission is how do you create deep impact, which is sustainable for the long term.
When you say sustainable for the long term, what do you mean?
So instead of me just giving someone something, how can I leave a lasting impact where they continue to support themselves and they won't rely on us?
So is that essentially
setting up the businesses? Yeah. So if we're helping set up these businesses, yes, we're teaching them and we're investing, we're providing, but there's a cutoff point to that. They will then be able to run those businesses by themselves.
They have to get out of the nest and fly and fend for themselves after a point of nurturing.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I want to ask, is that at all related to the name, the Lotus Flower? Like, where did that come from? Does it come from... I've got some ideas, but I want to hear it from you. Like, how did that start? Is there a story behind it, or is it related to the activities that you do?
So the Lotus Flower, you know, it was one of the hardest things, the name, and I didn't know if it would be accepted here or understood, because most of the organizations, like civil society organizations, had the word woman in. Yeah. Like women something, women. There was always the word women in there.
It's written on the tin.
Yeah. And I didn't really want that, because I knew that I wanted to support women and girls, but I knew that I wanted to build an environment where it's based on an allyship, where others can help us support women and girls. And I chose the Lotus Flower because, I don't know if you know, but the Lotus Flower is a flower that grows in the muddy grounds, and it kind of rises up daily and blossoms and goes back down. So it does this on a daily basis. And for me, I thought, there's no better analogy of a woman going through all the struggles, rising up daily, blossoming, and then going back to sleep, and then doing the same thing, repeat every day. So I think for me, a Lotus Flower represents women and girls.
Interesting. Have you got any flowers in your office? Lotus flowers?
Not lotus flowers. We have lots of flowers because our climate change pillar. So we have lots of greenery, but not a lotus flower. We need to grow some, maybe. Yeah,
maybe the next donation we could maybe allocate some funds for that. But I'm interested about the donor side, because that's very key to maintaining your ongoing activities. maybe is there an element of self-sustaining nature to some of the businesses that you help start up to feed back into your organization to continue to provide that support, or do you still just rely mainly on donations coming in for that?
So far we, once we help the businesses are owned by the women themselves.
100% shareholders.
100%.
You haven't got 5% or any silent shareholding?
No, none of that. None of that. No. It's a genuine project of wanting to help and make sure that they do the project. When we devise a program, like when we create the funding for this, obviously there are costs associated to it, and the donor covers all the costs.
100%.
100%. So they're clearly outlined.
Okay.
You have a project manager, or you have, I don't know, equipment or whatever it is. All the budget lines are 100% transparent to the donor, and they cover it.
And if you go over budget slightly, are they...
We never go over.
Really? So you always add a contingency so that you never have to ask for more money after they've approved?
We can't add a contingency. You can have, like in CSOs and NGOs and so on, add a admin fee, but that's very minimal. And that's for the organizational growth, for to maintain finance and operations and things like that. That's the difference with budgeting, I think. When you're fundraising and you create bids and fundraising, your budget should be pretty accurate.
I mean, you do your very best, but then when you're actually carrying out the activities, maybe there's some hidden costs. Nothing like that? Really?
There's no leeway for us to do that, no. No, you've got... This is why I'm like, I don't think people realise how difficult it is.
Like to the cent, you...
Yeah. And if it's... but when you've done several projects, you will know these things. And when you have departments, say, for example, they're like, go out and get this, they have to go get the quotes for it.
Okay.
Yeah, so the budgets are based on things we already know.
Okay, that makes sense.
There won't be any kind of surprises anywhere.
Yeah.
We should know the budgets for everything, basically. And yeah, I mean, we've never gone over budget. If we do go over budget, then it's on me to fundraise for it.
Okay.
Outside of that project. So I have to figure out how to find money from unrestricted funding to cover it.
What's that process like a typical funding funnel, where you, like, the first contact you make versus when an agreement's signed? Like, what are the steps it takes to securing that donor's commitment for the first time? Obviously, once you're on the books, it becomes easier, but like, do you have to do outreach to them? Do they find you organically, or do you speak at events where they understand the project that you're working on, and then maybe you can have a conversation? How does that process start from the beginning until
the end
they sign the...
It varies again depending on the donor, so it has to be very, very tailored according to the donor. Say if it's a bid application, let's take the Trust and Foundation for our Women's Business Incubator. That took us a year of going back and forth.
So you can't be, if you need money quickly, it's not a fast process at all.
Unless you know rich people who can just convert money and transfer. No, you've got to, this is something that you have. It's a slow burn. You have to build trust and, show them where the money's going to go and how it's going to go. So it's a lot around relationship building. That's why I do a lot of talks and events and so on. So it helps with the exposure of kind of getting potential new supporters. So really, it's a slow burn.
How important is it to know someone in this business, in this area?
Yeah, I think, especially in this region, I think knowing people helps. But saying that, I guess because my dad was quite well known, I've never really used his name. In the 10 years that I've worked here, I've never really gone to anyone and used his name, or I've never kind of...
Why not? Do you think it'll make your life easier if you did and you don't want...
No, because I believe that you can do it with hard work yourself.
Definitely.
Like, I'm a massive believer in... And yes, not just in this region, outside, internationally, everywhere. I noticed that the people who know people have doors open for them a lot more easily, right?
You don't like that?
Not that I don't like that. I just don't try and use that. I've tried to use my hard work to kind of do that, if that makes sense.
It does, but think about it from the perspective of what you're doing, what impact you're trying to have.
Yeah.
If life is made easier by a door opening more smoothly because you've said something or they're aware of something about you, that then allows you to have less work to put into building that relationship, which you can allocate to some of the projects you're working on, or secure more interest, more donations to allow you to impact more people.
Yeah.
You've been gifted with something that not many people have, perhaps the name of your father or any other assets that you've accrued over your lifetime or been born into. Don't you feel that maybe it could be put to good use if you put your own sort of... I understand the drive. You want to make it on your own.
I kind of see that. I completely see what you say, but I think for me it was really, really important from day one to see if it's possible to kind of do it through hard work, through following. Like, I've built a profile with my story and why, and I've been very good at building the profile. And that profile has allowed me to, for example, I got an OBE in the UK. So you'll know what an OBE is.
I do. But what is an OBE for those that don't know?
It's like office. Basically, you're awarded this award by the royal family, and mine was Anne. And it was in recognition for the work that I do. So it was in full recognition for the work that I do here. And I did that by myself. I've won lots of awards, and it's been through the work that I do. So I want to be recognized for the work and hard work that I do, not because I know someone. And that someone will be very helpful, and whoever it is, they will help me, and they'll do stuff, but they'll do it because they recognize the hard work. And we've built such a strong reputation with the Lotus Flower through our hard work. So I believe that is possible. I've got a phenomenal team. I believe in them. I believe in the work that we do, in our integrity. So yes, knowing people 100% helps. But I think we've also been able to do it the way we've done it. And hard work pays. It's harder.
It must be, because your circumstances starting out weren't easy. Limited time.
Yeah.
You spread between so many different things. Raising a son. Have you got any more children now? Was it just the one at a time?
No, I've just got one. He's 22, and it feels like, mashallah, I've got 10. But
but that must have been a challenge, like navigating that.
Yeah. And
relying on your own self team that you created. Yeah. Well done.
Thank you. I mean, it's been very rewarding, but also quite hard. I mean, I'm also ill, so I've got Crohn's disease, and I no longer have an intestine, so I live with a stoma bag. And so for me, those challenges of an invisible disability have also added to everything. But I think because I've created an environment that allows me to work to my passion.
So it doesn't feel like
it myself.
Work.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like work at all. Like, if I'm ill, I'll tell the team I'm ill. I'm going to have a body crash. I need to close my eyes for 10 minutes. Nobody bats an eyelid. So I really do believe that you can create your dream, and it can be a business. It can still have an impact in the world.
I think that's true. And you can find the energy. You can muster the energy, even if you're operating on 50% capacity, because it's your passion.
Yeah.
You're waking up for creating the change that you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
So I think, because you mentioned something at the very beginning, you want to create something that's independent from you, i.e. it's not relying on your direct involvement to keep going. What are your plans for the future in that way? Do you still see yourself as an integral part of the organisation, or do you want to kind of let it manage itself on its own with your oversight, maybe?
So obviously Lotus was born out of me, and I love Lotus, and I am part of Lotus, and I will forever be part of Lotus. But I think this is where charities and NGOs, especially leaders of them, need to start treating things like a business. They need to, if they want the legacy of the impact to carry on, they need to recognize that it can't be attached to them. Yes, I can use my story for now, and it's the journey and how we started. It doesn't mean you take that away from it. But what it does mean is that you build a really strong organization that you're able to step away from. And stepping away might be you just step down as CEO and you go on the board, you mentor them, you help them. So that for me is building a sustainable organization. And that's my goal, because once I've got to that point, then I know that it's a sustainable organization and I can walk away from it by mentoring it and supporting it in any way. But it means it carries on. So it's not attached to one person. And I think there's a term for that. They call it
key man risk. But actually in this case, it's key woman risk, key person risk. Let's make it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's important for a sustainability of any organisation, is to make sure it's not attached to one person.
Brilliant. And plans for the future then? So how big is your team now? How big do you want it to be? How many projects do you do a year? So on and so forth.
We're about, we're about over 100, because some projects, because of the child protection programme that we've had to reduce on. I think what we found our strength is really building and capacity sharing of smaller organisations now. You know, we've supported a few organisations that were like us when we were so small, and we've helped them grow. I think we're very unique in the way that we support organisations and individuals to really stand on their own 2 feet and be strong, because we want that. We recognise that you can't be the only player in a region to fix all the problems. You need lots of people trying to help. So we're fully recognising of that, wanting to support more smaller organisations.
So even if they might be vying for the same donation pie like competitors, or there's no risk of them taking food from your team's plate?
There's an abundance in the world. I think maybe here in other regions, what I've found is that there's a lot of scarcity mindset.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen that.
That scarcity mindset just causes jealousy, causes problems. I'm there going, we're all in one world. There's an abundance of everything. You just need to figure out how you get your part. There's an organisation that we've kind of really helped register, start up, grow. We help them do funding applications. I think everyone needs to be part of solving the problems, and people need to collaborate more. I'm always weary of those that don't really want to collaborate genuinely and meaningfully. Or leaders that are very critical of other leaders. I'm like, if you're busy doing that, then you're not doing the work, really. You need to be focusing on doing the work.
Yeah.
And
that's a full-time job in itself, being like that, yeah.
Yeah, no, we've got no time for it. And I think we've done really well to just stay away. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of people that say lots of things about me and other people. I'm like, I'm not here for that. I'm here for simply, how do we create impact? And whether this is an individual or an organisation, how do we help them grow so we can accelerate the growth of our region and our people? And that's it, simply. And I think for me, it does come from a place of, I guess, pain. You know, we've all been through something. How do we transmute that pain into something more purposeful?
Yeah, you remind me of a book I read years ago, Man's Search for Meaning.
Okay.
And the essence of the book is, to live is to suffer, and the meaning of life is to find... No, the purpose of life is to find meaning in the suffering.
Yeah.
And so you've got your passion you're working on with the Lotus Flower, doing great work for years, and hopefully many, many more years to come.
Thank you.
Wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you.
And Taban, thank you very much for coming on the show. And great to hear your story, great to hear all the great work you're doing, empowering people, empowering business owners to do more for the community, creating self-sustaining organisations and having a massive impact in the region.
Thank you so much. I really love this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thanks.
coming. Thank you.